Wil Hahn, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Mate, it's been a while, but we finally got together. But just for the people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a quick highlight reel of your story?
I was a Kansas-born, I guess, farmer, essentially. My parents farmed, my grandparents farmed and all that. So was raised kind of that way, and dirt bikes were kind of our hobby, and it ended up turning into a career path for me.
And were sort of parents, grandparents, were they into that world, or was that something you just sort of found yourself going into yourself?
My dad rode for fun, but not really, not any competitions or anything of that sort. So mostly, like I said, we grew up with dirt bikes and stuff like that anyway. And my older brother is about 4 years older than me, so he rode before I did, and whatever he did, I followed suit. I wanted to do whatever he was doing.
What was it, do you think, about that particular sport that excited you? 'Cause, I mean, obviously been in the US. You got football, baseball, basketball. Like those are the top tiered ones. But what got you into the extreme end of sport? What do you think about it was the thing that drove you towards that?
I don't know. It's kind of tough in a sense because like I really enjoyed baseball and basketball when I was still in school, and um, I guess the downfall of my basketball career, I never really grew. So I'm only about 5'6", so that was probably the telling point for that. But no, I don't know. It was just like something about it. Every time I rode, I think I enjoyed every part of it so much that I had a passion and I didn't even really know it, at a young age. When you're 7 or 8 or whatever, I don't think you really understand what the passion is, but I did. And for whatever reason, it just stuck with me. And no matter what I did, I felt drawn to it. Like I felt like, when I was there, I was kind of in a sense, the only time my mind was completely clear. I wasn't really thinking, I was just riding.
Yeah, that's super interesting you say that, because I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about this same thing about passion and how do people, or how can we help people find their own passion? And my response was, I guess, kind of similar, was it's not something really that you search for. It's something that sort of pulls you towards you. You
Yes.
aren't even realizing, like, you only have to sort of open your eyes and be a bit more aware of, like, where is my life pulling me towards? And that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Follow the path, and sort of see where it takes you, I guess. Is that sort of what it sounds like? That's what happened with you.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think we ever had this plan that it would turn into something even professional. It was just, go to local races, and then it, evolved into, okay, we'll go to a national once. And then that was like, well, we started getting some sponsors and some help. And, I don't, I don't know that any of us really thought that it would ever, I'd sign to a professional team or get paid to do it eventually. I don't know that we ever really thought that, or we definitely didn't bank on it, I guess. I didn't ever think like, well, that's for sure what I'm doing, no problem. But yeah, I think it organically kind of turned into that because of, like you said, the passion. And then eventually, once I got older, I understood like I did want to pursue it, at least give it a good effort to maybe go pro.
Was there I guess, a particular age that you realized, you know what, I'm actually better than most people at this?
Yeah, I think, and growing up in Kansas, the competition wasn't there wasn't a big depth there. Um, and, we kind of outgrew that. Then I went to Oklahoma, and then I went to Texas. And even at that point, I didn't really click for me. But I think I was about 14. I'd got a couple injuries back to back, and I was kind of done with it, honestly. I was like, kind of move on and, be my brother's mechanic. And then, eventually what I thought was like, I'll just farm one day. Like that's what, it's what we'll end up doing. And my brother had actually called me out. He had gone pro and signed on it to a team. And he talked me into giving it like another go. He's like, hey, like you need to just give it one effort, everything you have. And if it doesn't pan out, you tried. And I'm really thankful that he kind of talked me into that.
Were they, I guess, a couple of lessons that your brother sort of taught you along the way, him being 4 years older and already experienced a lot? What were some of the lessons that he sort of showed you?
I think a lot of the stuff, like early on, he got me set up with his trainer at the time that got me on a regimen that taught me, discipline. And not that I didn't have discipline. I guess, my dad had taught us that young from working on the farm and stuff, but I guess more so regimen and having a plan day to day, not just, oh, I'm going to go ride, or maybe I'll go on a run here or there. It was more like a complete structure. And like, a lot of the things, like they say, your older sibling, you learn more from them without them even telling you what stuff they do wrong. So you're like, well, I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
So I think that was more so, and obviously just being there every day for me. Like he was, my dad was working and my mom was working. So he was stuck with a younger brother. When he probably wanted to go hang out with friends, he was stuck with me most of the time.
I think it's super interesting. I guess for at least somewhat your environment creates your reality without you really even knowing it. Your discipline and stuff was just already there because you grew up on a farm. And obviously anyone that's worked on a farm or spent some time there, like, it's a very, very regimented lifestyle. Like, there's a lot of things that are you're responsible for.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was funny is, like, my dad and my mom never really had this like tight leash on us. It was, do whatever you want to do, but you're up at 6 a.m. and doing the chores and getting going. If you want to be out all night and not get sleep, that's up to you. And we never really even drank. And I don't know if we were scared of it or what, but we were like, well, we got to get up early, so we'll hang out with the boys for a bit and then go home and we'll get back to work, I guess.
What I'm interested, actually, having family members that own farms, but never actually growing up on one myself. What are a couple of the lessons that you learned from a farm, from the farming lifestyle at that young age?
I think just the overall, and I don't know if I didn't learn that, I guess, necessarily at a young age, but this hard work, like I thought that was normal. I think because we grew up in such a rural community. Like, the town I grew up in had population, I think, of 75 or so.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, it was 120 kids from K through 12 at our school. So it was like, it was a small community. So I didn't know any different, really. This was just normal. You get up, you go to work and you do your stuff and, do your school. And then, in the afternoons we rode after school. It was like, that was like our, I guess, reward. So I guess without even really knowing it at the time, yeah, it did teach me structure and discipline, I guess, at a very young age. And then looking back on it now, I'm like, always like, man, I can't believe how much my dad did for us, because when he was not working, he was working on a bike for us or driving to a race or, trying to give us a future. And you don't take it for granted, but in a sense you kind of do, because you don't really know all the sacrifices till I got older. And I was like, wow, man, I can't believe how much he did for us.
Do you find with the people that you manage now that is sort of a predictor of their success, like having that initial work ethic that's just already there? Or do you think that it's something that still can be taught and people can be trained to have that work ethic?
I think it can be taught for sure, but it's definitely a hell of a shortcut if you already have it. That's for sure.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges are, I guess, with managing other athletes, especially being different to potentially having a different mindset to what you had?
I think just the overall different personalities and learning that, and then how to, I feel like almost everyone clicks differently. And that's in, I think, any aspect or form or, professional, I guess, next level of your career or any kind of job or anything you're doing. But yeah, I think it's just kind of learning, and then like how to motivate that different personality, how to help that personality or whatever. But I think that's the biggest and sometimes hardest thing. Obviously you click well with others differently than you do some. Like, some people just harder to open up, I guess you could say.
Have you, I guess, ever had someone come to you and just, I guess, essentially just like refuse to change and be like, I am the way I am. I'm a great athlete. Sort of, I'm not going to change and take anything on board. And how do you deal with that if that's ever happened?
Not really. I feel like everyone that is involved with it pretty open-minded for the most part. And like, I think both sides kind of need to be and have to be, because I think you're always constantly learning in a sense. And I don't think that ever stops. I think no matter what you do as a, profession, I think that you're always kind of learning some things where you're like, I got to be a little bit more on it here, or just almost a sponge in a way to where they might be right. Maybe my way isn't the way, or maybe this way that we're teaching isn't exactly the way. But there's always different ways to go about something, or 10 ways to skin a cat or whatever they say. It's like, it's funny because it's so true that I just think the biggest thing with that is not being closed-minded, listening, and then also finding a way to help them.
I wanted to actually go back to your journey through extreme sports, and what was the biggest, I guess, win for you? What was the biggest accomplishment for you? That it may not necessarily being a trophy or a reward, but what was the biggest moment that you look back and like that was the thing that I was most proud of?
I think the first time I got on a podium in Supercross was really big for me, because then I kind of felt like it was possible. Because like I went from amateurs and like I didn't win a lot, but I won some, and then you go so long without like tasting that little bit of success that kind of keeps you, I don't know necessarily motivated, but in a sense, or like keeps you striving for that next goal, where it was kind of like, I'm not sure. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I do belong here. Like I can be one of the guys. And then when in my first Supercross was a massive feeling. It was in Atlanta. It was sold out. It was 80,000 people. And like, it was just, for me, like the pinnacle of my life. My dad was there. And it was just a feeling that I don't know that I could ever replace that high, that sense of feeling. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't turn my brain off. I couldn't believe we accomplished it. And then I ended up, I guess the year I won the first Supercross, I won the Supercross championship that year. And I was like, that feeling will never go away.
Is that something, I guess, you try to explain to your athletes of that feeling of like, this is what yes, the rewards and the trophy and the podium's great, but it's this feeling that we're sort of trying to chase. Is that something you try and get across to the athletes at all?
Yeah. And I think that you only have to taste that one time. And then it's kind of a shame though, because then like second doesn't feel good anymore. It's like, you're not happy with that, but I think when you find someone that gets second and rode good and is not happy, that you've got something there, because I feel like once you're content, it's easy to kind of roll over, and getting comfortable it's a scary thing, right? Where you're happy with those results, and you should be, but also it's like kind of, you still got to strive for more. And that's always a tough line to kind of tiptoe around, right? Like, cause you want to keep the motivation up, keep the morale up, even with the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever it could be. But yet keep them striving for that. Let's keep winning. Let's keep trying that.
So after that the first podium win, the win of the Supercross championship, I guess the next time you raced and didn't win, what was that sort of internal monologue to yourself of like, obviously there's a disappointment element there, but what did you say to yourself to keep wanting to keep going and not just be like, oh, fuck this?
It was a little bit hard, because like when you're chasing, then all of a sudden I was in this championship contention, and you have to be kind of smart, not throw it away. So it was like I went through this like funk of like, kind of just go through the motions. It's okay to get second or third. And then I was like bummed, because I'm like, I should be winning these, and I hate to say it, but I mean, there's more money on the line. There's all kinds of motivating factors, right? That where you're like, well, dude, like, just lost 10 grand tonight or whatever it was, should have been mine, or, and I just wanted to win, I wanted that feeling again. I don't want that feeling to end ever, and, I just think once I tasted it, it's like, I couldn't stop wanting that feeling. Like I was like, I need that again.
Did you get it again? So after that first big win, we come the second, it's okay. Did you get that feeling again when you won, or was it different the next time round?
Yeah, because I won 2 races back to back, and then I didn't win again the whole season until the championship. Like I didn't win even the final race, but I did enough to win the championship. And yeah, when that happened, and my family being there and everything like that, yeah, it was almost more surreal. Like the first win really sunk in, but that one, like, it took a while for me to like realize what happened. Like I was such a blur from the day. There's obviously anxiety and nerves and everything like that go through the day. And I actually, in the last qualifying practice before the night show, I broke my hand. I crashed pretty hard. And yeah, and it was gnarly. Like, and I was like, well, I had a very small points lead, and I won the title, I think, by 2 points. It was just, I barely got it, but it was just a feeling that I knew in the truck, and I knew my hand was broken, and I'm like, you got to do this is your moment. Like it might not, you never know. It might not happen again. It might not be in this position again, or I could get injured or whatever. I don't know. But I think that made it even more kind of surreal and more gratifying in a sense that I was able to still pull it off, even with my hand being the way it was.
That's incredibly, I guess, inspiring, is that knowing that you broke your hand, but you still went on and won. What do you think was that determining factor of how you were able to, I guess, cultivate the courage to just say, you know what, I know this is broken, but I need to go out there and win anyway? What do you think was sort of going on in your mind to be able to get that courage?
It was kind of weird. It was like a combination of obviously having a good team around me from my trainer and the team I was riding for at the time. And I just told him, I don't really have a choice, but it's 15 laps and I'm going to go give it everything I have. And if I come up short, I come up short. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? Like it was just one of those things where it sounds nonchalant, but that's kind of what I was like. I was like, well, until I can't hold on anymore or whatever, I'll give it everything I have. And that's all I can do. But obviously, like in the moment, I was like extremely bummed out because, I was like, oh, it's over. The typical, like you feel sorry for yourself initially and you're like, oh, it's over, it's done. And then, once I calm down, I'm like, you know what, all you can do is try as hard as you can. If you do that, then you'll be satisfied even if you do come up short.
Is that, I guess, that do or die moment. It's like, well, I've got nothing. I've got no other choice. Like I have to go out there and just give it everything.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll look back in regret.
Exactly.
What were, obviously talking about the win, a couple of things of being satisfied with the not quote unquote losses, but the second and third and being content with that. What are a couple of the biggest lessons that you learned from Supercross in itself?
I think just from growing up and doing this in my life and, I went through quite a bit of injuries and stuff like that, but I think the biggest thing it taught me was kind of maybe patience in a sense. And then also like just that I really do believe like when you really put your mind to something, you can achieve it. And it was, I never should have won. Like I said earlier, like coming from a town of 75 people in Kansas and like I shouldn't have ever been able to do this. But at one point I put my mind to it and, I wrote down these statements every day from like 2011. I ended up winning in 2013, but I wrote these statements 3 times a year and I'd put them on my mirror and I'd read them every morning, like to help myself, because I really feel like I was one of the most fit, all this stuff. But it came down to like a couple years before winning the championship, like I'd almost win a race, but just couldn't quite seal it. And it wasn't because I wasn't fit enough. It was like your mind almost tricking you that you're not, I don't want to say not capable, but you're not worthy enough or something. Like, I don't know. I had this like self-doubt that I couldn't get rid of, and read a lot of books about just mental strength. And I think I, for lack of better words, faked myself into it.
I think that's super important as you look with any sort of elite athlete, yourself obviously included in this, is that they have this indomitable will of like, it doesn't matter what's going on. Like, I don't care what other people say, like I'm gonna win no matter what. Yeah.
And I think that's eventually I had to make myself believe that, even if I didn't fully. I think I felt like if I read it enough, eventually you're going to make yourself believe it.
Yeah, I think there's something that's incredibly powerful there. So with books, was there a particular book that you read that you were that sort of had this immediate like, yes, that's the mindset I need to have?
Yeah, 100%. My trainer at the time, he had read the book first. It was called Mind Gym. And he had highlighted stuff, and he had told me, he's like, some of this is you're going to relate to, some of this you're not. He's like, that's just the way it is, but read the whole book. And he had already gone through the whole thing and highlighted stuff that he felt like would relate to me initially. And he was right. And some of it that he didn't highlight maybe did resonate with me. And then some of it was kind of like, it doesn't really relate to what I do, but in a sense it still does. But yeah, it was just, basically like even a batter going up for batting and saying, like, don't do this or don't do that. And that's exactly what I was doing. Like, oh, don't make a mistake or anything like that. But well, what do you do when you do that? You end up doing it, or like, when you're driving and you're like, don't hit that hole, you probably hit the hole. Yeah. And so it's like, I tried to like, I guess, wean myself off of this bad habit I had that I didn't even know I had.
Yeah, I guess there's like negativity begets negativity as positivity begets positivity. Like if you're looking for something negative, you're probably going to find it. But if you're also
Exactly.
looking for something positive or looking for success, you're probably going to find it.
Well, and it's funny because how I look back, and I've told some of the guys this before, like, and I'll never forget the race because it haunts me forever. But in 2010, I was fastest qualifier, won my heat race by a big gap, and went out in the main event. I whole shotted, and I was leading. And I remember being on the gate, and for some reason, I told myself I wasn't going to have 15 laps in me that night because I had gotten sick that week. And I'm like, you can't do 15 laps at that pace. Like, you didn't ride enough. You've been sick. You didn't get to train this week. And in hindsight, now looking back, like, I mean, I was only like 20 at the time. And for whatever reason, I believed it. But now I'm like, you were more rested. You're probably in a better spot anyway. But for whatever reason on the gate, my brain was telling me, like, dude, you're not going to be able to pull it off. And I don't know why. I didn't think like that, or I didn't, I wasn't like, I'm not a pessimistic guy that's like negative. I was always super positive and upbeat, but for whatever reason, I had this block that wouldn't allow me to achieve. And somehow, some way I ended up breaking that wall down.
How do you think you broke that wall down? Because it's something that everybody goes through. Like even the clients that I have, people just have this mindset of, as you said previously, is like lack of worth. This self-doubt is always there, and it's like we feel like we're not good enough when we haven't even tried. Like how would we know that? How did you break that?
I swear the mental health books, talking about it openly, like not bearing it, because I mean, anybody that has that is somewhat embarrassed or self-conscious about it, whether you like it or not. No one wants to admit that they're not capable or feel that they're not worthy to be able to do it or anything like that. So I think between that, as corny as it sounds, watching the movie The Secret, because I was very skeptical and I was pessimistic on that going into it. I'm like, a movie's not going to do anything for me. Like, come on. And I was just sitting there thinking, and I'm like, that is the mindset, like open-minded and a little bit more, I don't want to say carefree, but kind of in a way, like a little bit more of a free spirit of just like, dude, if you do your work and you work hard and everything like that, things will pan out.
Yeah, it's it's funny you mentioned The Secret. It was literally the book that changed my entire perspective on life. And as you sort of said there, it's just changing your belief system, right? Like it's a lot of people sort of hear about it and immediately jump on, I guess, the negative bandwagon. Like, oh, it's complete bullshit. Doesn't even work, stuff like that. And you're like, have you actually read it? Have you actually seen the movie? Have you actually tried applying it in your own life for a long enough period of time to see if it's going to be negative or positive experience, And I've spoken with so many people that had the mindset. I said, look, go out and buy the book. You go do it, read it, spend some time with it, spend some time thinking on it. And if you think it's complete bullshit, I'll buy it off you. Like, I'll pay for the book. I don't care. I've already got 3 copies. And every single one of those people has never given that book to me. As every single one of those people has always said, that changed me.
No, and that's 100% true. And what's funny is I watched the movie and then I went and got the book because I was like, okay, well, I gotta get the book too, because like when I would fly to races and stuff, I would have my backpack my iPad and stuff like that, but I would put that Mind Gym book so I could flip through it on the plane. And The Secret, like if I ever caught myself like kind of starting to go maybe towards that path, because it's easy, right? It's a hell of a lot easier to go back to negative and giving up than it is to keep trying and make yourself push. So every time I'd kind of feel that way, I would just flip through a couple pages, not read the whole thing every time, but at least remind myself like, hey, like get back to where we were. You're fine.
Yeah, 100%. Is that something that you speak with your athletes about? Like,
yes.
Like how to control that mindset? And what does that conversation look like? I mean, hypothetically, I'm one of your athletes. I've come in there and I've got this self-doubt and I've got this negativity and I can't get myself out of it. What does that conversation look like?
It's honestly just talking about it openly, like we just talked about, like just being open about it. How can we help? Obviously, you've got to this point not on accident. Like you don't get hired on one of these teams because, of a charity or anything like that. It's you earned it and you didn't get here on accident. You're obviously very capable. And some of the guys, now it's so readily available. There is a mental coach that kind of helps a few of our guys that have struggled with that. And he's very on top of it, very educated. And everything that he talks about, it's either something I've read or tried myself and I believe in. So it's easier for me to be on board with that and maybe push that a little bit as well.
How are you thinking about of these, especially a young athlete coming into this world, may have never, it might come up from a small place like you did in Kansas, and how do you connect with a professional athlete, someone who's come on board, especially initially? How do you create that connection for them to respect you and obviously do the things you're asking them to do?
It's funny because some of the older, I'd say the older guys we have, I either grew up around or was relevant enough when they were coming up that they remember, or I've known them for a long time. But like you're saying, some of the newer kids that may not even know who I was and I understand that. It's just the generation behind. And I think it's just trying it once, and then they'll either see it, or you just got to keep that. I'm very open and very, I don't know, I guess approachable. And so I think it's easy for people to feel pretty comfortable around me because I don't really change around anybody that we're around. So and just like I said, I think more so being open from communication right off the bat. And you're forced to be really close anyway, I think, in our sport, which is one thing I really love about it, because you do it from such a young age, and then you're racing every weekend with families, and you're kind of forced to be out of your comfort zone, because like I didn't go to full-time school through high school or anything, so like my friends were at the track. It wasn't like I didn't go to prom or I didn't do anything like that, but that was like my I guess social life was the track. So I think that we're all kind of forced to have that barrier already somewhat broke down at this point. And like I said, obviously there is people you relate to more than others. And it's hard to sometimes maybe differ that, where it's really easy to go talk to this guy because we get along really well or we've known each other a long time. But I also want to make sure everyone's kind of getting the same attention, I guess.
Yeah. If there's people out there, and I'm sure there is, that are listening that have their own teams and have potentially, a younger sports team or even in their own business, what are a couple of bits of advice that you could give on building a team and creating this really, what it sounds like, this really positive culture where not only you're helping other people, but the older or more experienced athletes rather are helping other people as well? How do you think about creating that, and what advice can you give?
That's a funny one. I mean, that's a little bit tough, but I think it's more so the actual surrounding of the team itself. Not that, I mean, obviously the riders have to be able to do it, and kudos all to them, no doubt. But I think it comes from the overall structure, from our team owner to everyone that's on this team. Everyone strives for the same goal, and for how much we're around each other, I think we get along really fucking well, which is surprising because, normal atmospheres at work, it can get a little bit uncomfortable or don't really like that guy or whatever, but we never really run into that. And I think I think having that whole, it's almost like a pod, right? Like you have this whole pod of people that work together so well and click, and it's willing to lend a hand at any time, regardless if it's for their guy or not. And I think that's the biggest secret.
No, great advice. Great advice. I wanted to delve into a couple of different things, talking specifically about routines, behaviors when you were competing, and then obviously now as well. So did you have any sort of pre-game rituals that you used to do, whether that was specific foods or a particular song or anything like that? Did you have anything that you had to just do every time?
Later on, at first, no, not really. Once I got a little bit older, it's funny, I had these underwear that I won in for the first time, and like I had to have them with me. So if I was having a bad night, I would put them on, and like it would like make everything normal, which is so like kind of stupid in a sense, but I mean it worked every time. So I was like, I still have them somewhere, but I don't have to race anymore, so I don't wear them. But foods the night before a race, I was pretty routine on that, like to make sure it was safe. I knew it would get along with my stomach, everything like that. And then it was funny, like obviously trained during the week. Like on Monday I wouldn't ride, and I'd wait till Tuesday to ride. But every Monday I did the exact same road bike ride or at least the same goal of elevation, because I was like, this is what's making me win. For whatever reason, no, that Monday ride wasn't doing it, but for whatever reason in my brain, I was like, I got to do that same thing every Monday now. Like, not going to change the routine.
I guess that's funny because that ties into what we were speaking about before, just that belief system, like how no matter how ridiculous it sounds,
Yeah.
if you believe it, whether it's placebo or not, if you genuinely believe that that's what's creating the outcome that you want, cool, you have to go do the absolute ridiculous.
It's actually funny because one year I had this conversation, and I got second to the championship with him in 2010 when we had this conversation. And I remember asking him, and he was better than me. Like at the time, he's more experienced, older rider and better. But I did give him a decent run. But I'd asked him one time, like, man, like I'm kind of struggling. Like, do I need to change my whole program? Like, I'm like kind of struggling with like this belief thing, or whatever. And he goes, dude, it doesn't matter who you pay or what you do if you don't believe in it. If you believe you need to do the elliptical 15 minutes a day to go win a race, then that's what you need to do. And I remember that like stuck to me, and I'm like, dude, he's right. Like, if I don't believe in everything I'm doing, then there's no point in doing anything.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to sort of be your own biggest fan and be like, okay, I believe wholeheartedly, no one could tell me otherwise, that I'm gonna win this race, or at least I'm gonna die trying.
Yeah. That's what's funny. Like those statements I had wrote on my mirror. One of them was like, I mean, I think one of them had said, it's time to believe that I'm a bad motherfucker, and like all this stuff on it that maybe people would probably laugh if they seen it on my mirror or whatever. But like I said, I read it every morning, every night for 3 or 4 years, and like I said, maybe I faked myself into believing it, but I did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure if you can see, like, this wall here is full of everything we've just sort of spoken about, just like affirmations, random photos of visualizing stuff. And again, like, as crazy as it sounds, it genuinely works. Like, some of these are real adventurous, but for the most part, year by year, you get closer. And it's quite cool to be able to see, of like, fuck, I'm not there yet, but 12 months ago, I was definitely nowhere near where I am now.
100%. I think whether you're an athlete or not an athlete or whatever you're doing day to day, you need to have those short-term, long-term achievable goals, and then non-achievable goals that you can strive for, or I think you get stuck in this monotonous rut that it's really hard to get out of.
Yeah, 100%. As we can create bad habits, the cool thing is we can also create good habits.
Absolutely.
So the routines and a couple of things that you had there when you were performing, do you still have any of the same ones? And what are your sort of routines now, if you have them? More so if we're looking at, I guess, a morning routine. Do you have to get up and do certain things in the morning, or you just sort of get up and it's just a free for all?
I still really enjoy working out. So I get up pretty early, about 5 every morning, and do some kind of cardio. I still like if I want to go mountain bike with the guys and stuff like that, I always kind of want to still be competitive and at least try to give them the business and remind them once in a while. So yeah, I do that every morning, and then sometimes at night. And for the most part, nothing that I feel like I have to do, but I do still really enjoy it. So it's hard for me to turn that side of my brain off, where I still enjoy kind of like trying to stay fit, but also it's nice to be able to come home and have a beer as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there definitely has to be some kind of balance. I think people are generally one end of the spectrum or the other. They either do everything just monotonously over the top, or they do absolutely fuck all. And it's to find this sort of middle ground. Did you ever find that you were, especially when you were competing, maybe potentially too extreme or unnecessarily like regimented and extreme, or did you think that even actually benefited you?
Yeah, I think early on it really benefited me because I was able to get myself into that shape. But then at some point, I think I did overdo. Maybe it was on and off the bike. I got hurt one year, but I was still able to cycle. I just couldn't ride, and I got so into cycling that it almost took over. Like, that was more important than my actual job. And so, like, I couldn't wait to get on my bicycle, but it's like, hey, you need to go ride. But I'd like, oh, I'm just going to do an extra hour today. It's not going to hurt. But then I think I found myself possibly I don't want to say going backwards, but maybe taking away from where I needed to perform rather than what I wanted to do.
It's interesting. There's an interesting concept, and it's obstacle. Basically, it's obstacle versus opportunities, and you've got to be able to decipher throughout your life what is the obstacle and what is an actual opportunity. I guess oftentimes obstacle will always challenges, whether it's a shiny new thing, whether it's monetary value, whether it's a hot girl or whatever it might be. But the opportunities that lie are sort of much more subtle, and those are the things that we're really trying to find. And
Yeah.
the thing that you overcame there was that obstacle of like, yeah, cool, this is fun, but what do I actually need to do to take that needle to the next step?
And that's what's funny is like you explained it much more professionally than I did, but I was like, it was like a want versus a need. Like I couldn't decipher the want and the need at that point. Like I was like, well, you know, I want to go do it, but also I felt like I kind of needed to, because I was like, well, if I get more fit, I'll just only be better on the bike. But I think, like I said, I think it was taken away in some sense.
It's funny, isn't it, when we have something like that and then we'll justify it any way that we can. Like, yeah, I can have this cheeseburger, it's great, it's got a load of calories in there, there's lots of fuel. I'm justifying it to myself of why I deserve this or why I should do this. And you go, hold on, motherfucker, that is the dumbest shit that you've ever said. No, that's
100%. Oh, we've all done it. Like I've done that where I've had a big training day and I've been like, yeah, dude, I can have like, you know, shit food tonight, like no big deal. And it's like, well, no, you just kind of took away what you just did, you know, or like, yeah, I can have a beer tonight. Like I earned it, you know, whatever. But it's like, did you, you know?
Yeah. It's like, just because you can, should you?
Exactly.
Do you have any particular pre-race song that you had to play every time? Like, that's the thing that triggers you?
It's funny. I have a playlist that I made, and I don't even know when I made it, but it was race day. And let's see if I can find it. And there's songs on it that really, I guess, would register to me. But there was a couple of them, like Sam Adams was on here, and it was Just Love Here.
Yeah.
And for some reason that would like put me back to like my childhood and then like why I was here. And it's pretty much all like most part rap music, but it was all just stuff that would get me, I felt like, in that position to where I was, you know, for lack of better words, like ready to kill in a way.
Yeah, getting into that, I guess, that state of,
yeah,
okay, I'm ready to go fight, I'm ready to go to war here. It's funny when we talk about music, I say that we can't choose what inspires us, we can only choose to let it inspire us. And some of the craziest workouts I've done is to Disney songs. I'm not going to lie, but it's happened. And
yeah.
you know, we don't choose to go, okay, this is where we're going today, and we just got to decide to go with it or not.
And it's funny because music is so powerful, and it doesn't really matter what genre it is necessarily. It's like you said, there's some songs that would I play it in front of all my buddies? Probably not, but you know, it gets me in a good mood and like ready to go and start the day. But like, you know what I mean? Like, but everyone clicks a little bit differently, and it's so powerful because I think everyone's guilty of it. It's just a matter of admitting it.
Yeah, 100%. Who would be your, or at least one of your biggest inspirations, and what did you learn from that person?
Starting with my parents for sure, because how they balanced my brother and I's life and was able to pay for our racing and stuff like that. I honestly, I don't get it to this day. I know what they sacrificed and what they did, but I don't know how they pulled it off or achieved it really either. After that, it was just kind of guys I guess I met growing up in racing, and then my brother, obviously, for sure. Like between my mom and dad and my brother, like without them, it wouldn't have ever happened. But growing up later in life, you know, my trainer Ryan at the time and Sandy and Robert were also a big influence in my training. Robert Ager and Sandy Ager, they are in Northern California, but between those people, I had like such a good, like I was saying earlier, like this team around me that believed in me more than I did for sure at the time. And just having that kind of that, I don't know, I felt like I could tell them anything. And no matter what I did, they loved me and they would like try to push me to that next level at all times. So well, yeah, all those people, I don't know. And honestly, like my team manager, where I ended up winning my championship, was Mike LaRocco, and he knew how to get the best out of me for sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting we're looking from an athletic perspective of you feeling that your performance improving from either a place of love or of fear. Some people like ruling with an iron fist, and then some people like just nurturing you and just caring. And I think that in the long term will always win, the nurturing, the care, the love, and be like, you're in a safe place. You're in a safe place. So knowing that, you can go fucking crush it. Like, you can do anything you want because we're here to protect you and to help you.
Yeah. And that's what's funny. We'll even tell the guys that now, like our team owner now, he'll say like, go clean them out, go take them out, whatever. We'll be here to fight them when you get back. You ain't gonna worry about it. Like we have you. Like you're good. And I love that about him too, because it's like let's get him angry, let's get him mad. Like let's go win this fucking thing. And then if they got a problem, tell them to come over to the truck.
Yeah, and we'll deal with it then. Yeah, and
yeah.
I love that. I fucking love that. What are a couple of lessons that you've learned in being a professional athlete, but have potentially transitioned into your own life?
I think having that, I think you're forced to grow up really quick, which is also, it's a catch-22, right? Like, when you're 18 or 16 and you're already pretty much a full-blown adult, maybe a little clueless on some things, but you're forced to grow up rather quickly. I think it's also on the other side of that, it's made me very grounded, responsible, know how to handle myself. Without this sport and kind of getting to know people, I wouldn't have traveled to all the places I've traveled to, and I've gotten to see a lot of the world. And that's been the coolest thing for me. And the most gratifying that I've learned is, I was not scared to go out of the country and, maybe be on my own or go meet friends somewhere. And that came from racing, honestly, because I raced out of the country a few times. And then I was like, well, I want to go see more, because I was scared. I'm not going to lie. Like the first time I went to Paris, I was like, not scared, but like skeptical, I guess. Like, I don't really want to go. Like, be on a flight that long or whatever. Like, for us here, it's 4-hour flight's long. Like that's a long flight. And I'm like, 14. I'm like, I can't do 14. So, by far that, like, it was made me understand different cultures at a pretty young age. Compared to where I came from, anyway, I guess. But and then also really enjoy it. Like, can't wait to go back. I can't wait to go back to Australia. I loved Europe. Like, there was so many things that I've gotten, I guess, to be a part of that I really, really enjoy.
Where was the coolest place that you raced and went to?
Coolest place I've ever raced was, as far as like selfishly for my side of it, was Australia. And then, racing in Italy and Paris was cool because just of how old all the culture is. Like, getting to see, like, we raced in Italy and then we waited a week and we couldn't ride between the races anyway. And we just went to Rome for a few days. Got to travel on the bullet train and all this stuff, which I've never seen that stuff. And then, it's like every time I put my phone out to take a photo, we're in a tunnel. And I'm like, I like lift my phone up to take a photo. Like, nope, we're in a tunnel. And I'm like, shit, we're going like 300 miles an hour, So, probably, yeah, I don't know. The European races I did were pretty damn cool, but I had a lot of fun in Australia. Like, the people I was around, and that's how I ended my career. Like, I actually went there and did the Supercross series over there, and then retired right after the last race in Sydney, actually. So that was like, for me, that was like awesome way to end it, because everyone kind of knew that I was, about done. And, you'd have a beer after the race with the guys, and then we had a good time and got a couple podiums over there, which I hadn't gotten a podium in a couple years at that point. So I had kind of lost that touch, but it gave me that love back to it, to where I felt like my biggest fear was ending my career bitter and not loving it. I wanted to leave still loving it as much as I did when I started. And I felt like I was able to achieve that, but only because I feel like I went there with the people I was around.
Yeah, and I think we keep sort of coming back to that is the environment or the people that you surround yourself with. That's where sort of true happiness is.
Yeah.
And without those people, I always sort of say is that you can have the greatest experiences in your life, but if you've got no one to share them with, do they really mean anything?
Yeah. No, that's That's a fact. Like, and I look back at that, and I never really had a significant other while I was racing.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm engaged now and everything like that, but it's funny, like looking back then, I didn't share it with anybody. I mean, obviously my mom and my dad and my brother I did, but it's not. I don't say it's not the same, but it's kind of not.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very different.
yeah, and I hate that I was pretty selfish at the time. Like I made sure I didn't have time for anybody else in a sense, and forced probably good people away from me. But obviously now leading to what now I'm engaged to someone I'm obviously madly in love with. So for me, it's like maybe that was the right thing to do. But I do look back, seeing guys now with like their wives or even kids racing, and I'm like, maybe that would have been cooler, but I don't know. I guess I don't know because I don't know any different. But I do think some of those times where it would have been cool to have someone to share some of the experiences, well, some of the ups and downs directly with,
Yeah, and I guess it's obviously hard for you going through that. But if you hadn't gone through that, would you have had the wins that you had? And would you be able to pass on the lesson to other people now as well of going, okay, look, maybe you could share that with somebody.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. And I think one of the things I was like scared to lose that edge. Like I felt like if I don't know if I was too sidetracked with I don't know, say loving someone or something like that, that I would lose that edge. And it's funny too because then I watched it's Drive with Nicky Lauda and James Hunt or whatever, and he's like he like falls in love with her, then he loses the race or whatever, and he like kind of blames her originally for losing his edge. But I totally get that. I was scared of the same thing. Like if I get a little soft right now, which I'm not a hard ass, I've never have been, but I was scared to lose like that edge I felt like I had.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. We mentioned a couple of books earlier. I mean, The Mind Gen and The Secret. Is there any other books or even things that people could watch that you recommend people should check out for improving mindset, positivity, inspiration, whatever it might be? Is there anything that you could recommend?
It's funny, like the only other things that I've kind of related to, and some of it's maybe a touch over the top, but like any podcast that I listen to with like David Goggins is always for me like holy shit, this guy's gnarly. Like, yeah, he's aggressive, he's pretty vulgar, but I mean like if you don't fucking respect it, I'm like, dude, this guy's fucking gnarly. And so like him and like Cameron Haynes and stuff like that, like those guys inspire me just because this guy's running 10 miles is his easy day, and you're like, well, dude, like first time I ran 10 miles I thought I might die. And so it's cool to see these kind of things. And I think it's just like we were saying, like if you don't believe, it's hard to achieve it. But I feel like if you don't want to buy into anything, you almost got to find your own genre, something that motivates you in a sense, because I feel like if you don't buy into it, it's not going to really resonate with you the same.
Yeah, and I think as we mentioned before was you've got to be really aware and listen to yourself and be genuine.
Absolutely.
Like, this is what I actually enjoy. This is what I actually love, and you get this profound sense of like fulfillment from that, but also it takes you down this path of being really innovative as well, because it allows you to think differently, think more creatively as well, because you actually give a fuck about the thing that you're doing. You were saying to me, we talk about astrophysics. Well, I do not give a shit about that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, exactly.
If we're talking about human connection, I'm like, cool, let me do everything I can about how to cultivate and build that, because that's something I, love.
No, and that's what's funny is like it even goes back to like you saying going over the top on certain training and stuff like that. But it was like when I feel like I clicked the best was when I was, obviously I think anybody clicks the most when they're happy, right? Well, I was like on diets, whatever that I was fine with it. I knew why I was doing it, but I didn't really enjoy it. But once I ate like kind of like, and not a fuck it meal, but like eat happy in a sense, but it's not fried food or something like that, but it's okay to eat a little bit of this bread and not go crazy and like, enjoy it. Like if you're at Olive Garden, you want a breadstick, get a breadstick. Just don't eat 10 of them, So it's like, once I started to like lax myself on that a little bit, like, okay, it's okay. And then like next thing you know, like I'm happy, I'm riding better, I'm in a better mood all the time. Like it's crazy how, like you said, the general happiness, I think is, and it's easy to say that, but it honestly is like the cure for almost anything.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Mate, as we're sort of airing towards the end of this, we've spoken about a ton of stuff. Can you give maybe 2 or 3 takeaway points that people can implement in their life today to improve it?
I think anything that you can write down goal oriented that's achievable short term, and then something that's a little harder to achieve long term, I think you can never go wrong with that. I really don't think you can. Like, and you need to reward yourself when you do achieve them, whether that's an ice cream sandwich or, I don't know, whatever, like, again, what it goes back to, whatever makes you happy or whatever you really want to do, or if it's a new, I don't know, new tires for your truck. I don't know, something like that would make you genuinely happy. Like, then that's what you need to do too. Like, set out a goal, achieve it, feel good about it, reward yourself, and then go, okay, what's my next one? Like, don't stop there. Like, because I think it is easy to, once you achieve something, to kind of have this sense of relief and, like, almost be like, okay, I'm done now, I'm good. And because I felt like that after winning the title. It was like, well, what's next? And you almost find yourself a little lost and almost like in this hangover moment, to where you're like, you can't, like, how do I get back going again? Like, I finally did it, and it's like, I should have had it wrote down then beforehand, like, what would I do next if this happened, or when it happened? Not if, maybe when this happens, what am I going to do next right away to keep myself going?
Yeah, and I think that's where those long-term goals come in, because they're designed to take 10, 20 years.
Yes.
So that you have something to keep striving for. And then when you get close, cool, what does the next 10, 20 years look like?
Yep.
But it keeps you moving forward.
Absolutely.
What's next for you? What does sort of 2021 have in store for you? Anything big coming up? Any big races? Any big projects?
Yes. So our series actually kicks off on the 16th, I believe. 16th is our first round of Supercross. And our series is obviously a little bit different structure this year with COVID and everything that's going on. We'll do 3 races in, I think, every city except for one. So we'll do Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, which normally we just do Saturday throughout the year. So it's a little bit more crammed in, but I guess not really. It's actually kind of a cool thing, I think, to be in the same city for that long, and then also race 3 times a week. Like, otherwise we'll be racing once a week. So excited about that. And honestly, just to see, it's always exciting going to the first race of the year, because everyone has an idea where everyone's at, but no one really knows. So it's always exciting to see who did their homework, who's ready, who maybe didn't do what you thought they were going to do, or maybe there's a surprise that this guy exceeded way more than I thought he would do, or I don't know. It's always exciting to go to those first rounds, even without racing now. I get these like butterflies, and like in a good way of like, this is awesome. I can't wait to see how it pans out.
Yeah, and I think that's where you can tell you're passionate about something, because you don't necessarily have to be the one doing it. You just have to be there to experience it.
Absolutely.
And lastly, mate, where can people find you if they want to reach out and follow your journey and with the managing and seeing where your boys to go this year or next year?
I guess Instagram, just Wil Hahn. I spell it with 1 L because I'm weird, I guess. But I don't post a whole lot on there, but yeah, you definitely can follow the journey, and obviously the team as well. It's Star Racing Yamaha. They have an Instagram too, so it's really awesome. Like I said, our journey, the team's Instagram is updated daily, so you'll get a good idea of what's going on anyway.
Yeah, I know there's a ton of race fans, a couple of my good friends that are big fans of yours as well, and follow your Instagram journey, as I saw, and I was like, oh, I didn't know. I knew they were into Supercross, but it was cool sort of seeing them pop up on your followers as well, which is really, really cool, mate. That's cool. So I'm gonna push the hell out of this to those guys as well. So I'm sure they're gonna
awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna get a big kick out of this as well. And that is us. Wil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. I really appreciate you having me and taking the time.
If you want to optimize your health, fitness, and lifestyle and learn the tools and the tricks and the knowledge to be able to sustain a healthy and fit lifestyle, then please go check out my books on my website. As a loyal subscriber, you get a cheeky little discount. So I'll see you in there.